Welcome back to an incredible client launch episode. Today we got my man Robert A. Lane in the house, and his new book is officially out, ladies and gentlemen. And you know that I love doing these episodes because not only do I get to highlight an incredible client who's gone through our program, but more importantly is I get to put a great book in your hands and you get to hear and see the story of exactly how it came to be. So let me introduce you to our guest today. Robert A. Lane is a corporate performance coach and stress management facilitator. He works with enterprising career professionals, helping them achieve joy and empowerment at their job while reaching true personal freedom by eliminating stress, overwhelm, and burnout. He is the creator and founder of the coaching program, The Mindset Method. Robert is also a dynamic motivational speaker who continues to do presentations and speaking engagements for businesses and corporations all over the United States. He is an award-winning filmmaker and an accomplished film composer and resides in Sedona, Arizona with his family. Robert, unbelievable bio. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it. Very thankful for you to have me as a guest on your show.
Of course, man. Now look, let me just cut through the BS and cut through the noise. Your book is freaking out. This is amazing. Congratulations. How do you feel?
It's awesome. It's funny. People over the years have, mentioned. I tell a story or something about my past experiences in the entertainment industry, and they're like, "Oh, you should write your memoirs." And so this actually gave an opportunity to, not only do that, but more importantly, to incorporate what I do as a coach and how I help, busy professionals with their careers, and to be able to tie in those tools and techniques, and interweave them with the stories that I tell. So, the whole point was to make the book very valuable, but also very entertaining.
Yeah, I love that. I think you did a great job. I mean, just as you were writing the book, you would tell stories to us in our group and let us know what you're going to include in the book. And we were like, tell us more. We want more. So for everybody who's listening right now, what is the title of your book? What is the book all about? Let me hear it, and let's dig into the book that you've just launched.
All right, so the book is called Lights Action You, the guide to I like saying the, even though it's the guide. That's okay. The guide to master your mindset, overcome work stress, and regain your personal freedom.
I love that. I love that. And so, you mentioned that people would say, "Hey, put your stories into a memoir, put these stories into a book." Why did you ultimately decide to write the book, and why did you feel that at this point in your life it was the right time for you to share these stories?
Um, I've spent 30 plus years working in the entertainment industry in various facets. I started off as an audio engineer for a radio station, and then that led to other jobs in post production. I've done on camera work, off camera work, did a ton of extra work, behind the scenes work, and then eventually ended up working for 20th Century Fox as a project manager, for a big studio, and then that's where I spent the rest of my career. When I left the entertainment industry, I decided to forge a new path, and I wanted to give back. The first intention was to give back to the people in the industry because, you know, with any corporate job, even though it's entertainment, it's still a corporate job. And that means that you're still dealing with the day to day pressures and timelines and projects that need to be done yesterday. That's the way the timelines work. Your timeline windows get smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's just the way it works in the entertainment business. But it also applies to really any industry that you work for, no matter if it's a small company or a huge corporation. You deal with the same types of day-to-day pressures and stresses. And so I decided to change careers and become a corporate performance coach to help people deal with stress, deal with overwhelm, deal with burnout. And there are many ways to do this, and also incorporating through my coaching program, ways to become empowered, ways to build your confidence, ways to 100% believe in yourself, because that's where it starts. And once you're in the right mindset, then you'll be able to figure out what is the thing that's holding you back, and then focus on that. Whether it could be one thing, it could be several things, but when you get a handle on that, you purge these old habits that may have been stopping you or creating barriers from moving forward, and you create these new habits that empower you, that are positive, that move you forward towards the goals that you're setting for yourself. And that's really what the book is all about. So I share my personal story, but then I give, with each story, there's a tool, a technique, a life lesson, something that the reader can take away to utilize in their own life, not only for their career as a professional, but you can take these tools and apply them to your personal life.
Yeah, Robert, this is so good. And, look, no matter what industry you're in, the pressure of stress, the burnout, that stuff is real, right? And so it's critical that we have people like you who experience that and then share what you've learned and how to help other people to really be able to create a book that serves as the guide to help people overcome this. And so talk to me about, how do we know if we're approaching burnout? Because a lot of times we're like, we're just going to go, go, go. We got a deadline. We're going to overwork ourselves to do whatever it takes. And then burnout happens and we have to figure it out once it's there. Is there anything that you can share from your experiences or from the book that kind of address stress and approaching burnout, what to do when you get to that situation?
Yeah, I actually have a chapter in the book. It's called "That Cup of Joe is a No-Go," and and what I talk about, I do share a story, but the main point of this chapter is dealing with stress and being consciously aware of what I call your stress cup. And I've shared some techniques that you can do to empty that stress cup. And when you're consciously aware of it and you empty the cup, you are able to maintain a level to where it's not going to cause burnout, to where it's not going to, you don't allow yourself to get to that point to where you're just your back's up against the wall, and then you feel like I'm out of here. I got to quit my job. So that chapter is really important because there's a couple of things that you can do. You can empty the cup. You can build your stress cup muscle, make it bigger. But the thing with that is that if you're making your stress cup bigger, for example, it's only there so you're allowed. It's allowing you to handle more stress without, and this is very important, without it taking a toll on your physical or mental health. That doesn't mean that you just take on more stress and take on more stress. No, you have to be consciously aware of that. And when things start to build up, there are things that you can do, and I talk about it in the book, of how to empty that stress cup and keep yourself regulated so you don't burn out, so you don't feel overwhelmed all the time.
Yeah, can you share a couple of those ways? And you don't have to give all the secrets, right? We don't have to pour out the whole cup of Joe, but can you give us a couple practical ways that if we're experiencing burnout right now, or we're going through this and we're like, gosh, I need to know how to empty this stress cup or build the stress cup muscle. Can you elaborate on that for us and kind of give us some of that insight?
Sure, absolutely. For example, I do talk about there's two I would say definitions of stress. I would say there's good stress and there's bad stress. Okay, so good stress is called eustress, and eustress is actually positive stress. Okay, so it's the butterflies you feel before you maybe give a presentation, or the excitement you feel when you ride a roller coaster, or maybe the jitters, the excitement jitters you get, on the day of your wedding. That's positive stress. But then there's distress, which is the negative stress, and that's really what I hit on in the book, and that deals with pressures from work, from your job, even from your home life, and the thing that you have to be aware with distress is that it causes anxiety, it causes depression, it can cause loneliness, it can cause loss of appetite, or on the flip side, it can cause binge eating because people are trying to find something to deal with the stress. So they're using these things to cover it up without actually addressing the root cause.
Hmm.
So things that you can do, uh, for example, meditation is a great thing. And there's some people who are kind of like, I don't know, I want to do that. But you know what? You can do something in like 5 minutes. you can get yourself back into a positive frame of mind by visualization exercises, by doing breathing exercises. Breath work is a great thing. Um, there are other things that you can do that are really simple. All right, even if you work at home, if you're in a stressful situation, sometimes you just need to change your environment. It's just that simple. Just get up, go for a walk, take 5 minutes, take a few deep breaths. There's just simple things that you can do to help regulate that stress cup so that it's not going to overflow. And I mean, those are just a couple of just really simple things that you can do. And obviously, I dive into it more in the book, but there's simple things, really easy things, and that's what I wanted to make in the book. Is that here are some things that you can do. All it takes is implementation. They're practical. They're not hard. You just got to do it. Implementation and consistency, and that's something that I talk about in my introduction. Is mindset, implementation, and consistency are the three things that you need to be aware of to get the most out of this book.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I mean, it's interesting because just the other day I was having a conversation with my girlfriend and we were talking about stress and we were talking about how the feeling of excitement and the feeling of stress and anxiety, it's like it's the same thing in our minds, right? And so our body reacts, and it's about doing the little things that allow you to kind of understand and process what's going on. And like you just said, it's not necessarily doing an hour of meditation. It's a couple minutes of this. It's going on a 5-minute walk. We can change our state so quickly when we just take a second to look around, acknowledge our surroundings, and do some of the things that you talk about. And so if you're listening right now and you've ever experienced stress or distress, right? Talking about negative stress, you've experienced, burnout or the approach to that. I encourage you to get Robert's book. Like, take a look at it because he talks about a lot of things, especially coming from the entertainment world, which is a fast-paced environment with incredibly high demands and quick turnaround times. So it's really, really something that I think you know a lot about, and it's very evident from the stories you've shared with me, the stories you share in the book, and from just this little bit of secret insight that you gave us, that you really know all about this. And I want to kind of talk a little bit more generic about the book for a second here, because you mentioned your chapter was "This Cup of Joe is a no-go." And one of the things that I think is so cool when you write a book is that you can do whatever you want, right? You can curate it and create it in a way that feels good, that makes it entertaining. You could choose to be more serious if you want, but you get to choose that. And one of the choices that you made in your book was you were going to have fun title names of each chapter. And I'm curious, why did you want to do that and make your chapters more exciting than just chapter 1 or more exciting than just stress? Like what made you want to have chapters like "This Cup of Joe is a no-go" and other amazingly cool names for each chapter?
Um, it's part of my personality. It's just part of who I am. That's part of it. I like to add a little bit of humor. I mean, obviously, I want people to take me seriously as a coach because I take that very seriously as a coach. But I also wanted to make it entertaining. And the other thing is, there's a lot of great personal development books and self-help books that are out there. No doubt. But most of them are very textbook. It has that feeling of a workbook or a textbook or and it's like I just didn't want to go down that path. uh, the tools and techniques that I teach in my program are very specific, and I pull very specific things to teach my clients for them to get their true transformation and then reach the goals that they want. And I do take some of those and put them in the book, but I do want to make it enjoyable because you know what, we're all human beings that have sense of humors, and we don't have to be so serious all the time, yet we can still share valuable information. And it's just a different way of presenting valuable information and having fun with it at the same time.
And I think that's such a great approach. And here's what a lot of people don't recognize is that when you write a book, you're expressing who you are. And for you, you wanted people to know that you have a sense of humor, that even if you're teaching on very serious and corporate and performance based principles, that you're going to have fun with it. And
Yeah.
that's something that is really, really important because you're giving people an insight into who you are. They're starting to get to know you as they read this book. They're going to be like, oh, I can imagine Robert saying that. And I think that that's a really cool thing that you've done. And I want to say kudos to you because sometimes it can be a risky move in some people's eyes to kind of take more of a chance and show more of their personality rather than keeping it a little bit more textbooky, like you said. So I think you did a great job with that. I think it adds a whole level of entertainment, which also is in alignment with who you are and your brand and what you've done. So I think that's really great that you did that. So when you think about this book, okay, you talked about your program, the mindset method. We've talked about burnout. We've talked about stress. Let's talk about our mindset here for a second. All right.
Sure.
Mindset to me has been a huge part of my life and the growth of it, the never ending search for improvement. What is it about mindset that gets you going and that you see people needing help with all of the time?
Mindset, mindset is key. 100%. Mindset is key. Um, in my program, I divide up the mindset method into three major pillars, and the first pillar is mindset, number one, because it all starts from there. No matter what your goal is, it you know it doesn't matter whether it's a career goal, a relationship goal, maybe a financial goal, even weight loss goals. Okay, you have to be in the proper mindset from the very beginning before you start your journey. Because as you know, and this is life, we are going to run into roadblocks. We're going to run into things that may be difficult for us to get through. But again, when you're in the right mindset and the proper mindset, you will be able to keep moving forward to reach whatever goals that you've set for yourself, and you will attain them. And that's why mindset is so important, and that's one of the major things that I teach in my coaching program. So there's definitely a lot of mindset work that's in the book, but there's also like practical and tactical things that you can do to that do help with the mindset. So like if you're lacking confidence in time management, for example, well, there's some tools in here for you to be able to figure out, how to manage your time better. And when you do that, you're more productive, and then you're more efficient, and then that boosts your confidence. And where does that come from? It comes back down to the mindset again. So it's all tied together.
I love the way you kind of broke that down for us. What are the other two main parts of the program? Obviously, you mentioned mindset, and there's two other parts. What are the two other parts that you really love to teach upon?
Right. So the three pillars, the first is mindset. The second is, I call it practical and tactical. And that's where we take these tools, and it basically, I teach a lot of tools and techniques to load your toolbox. This is your mental toolbox. You have it. And when you are in a situation or a similar situation, whether at work, at home, usually it's a business thing. Like, for example, toxic work environments. You hear that all the time, right? So uh, in the practical and tactical pillar, you hear these tools that you can utilize to help you navigate through a toxic work environment. Because what I found with a lot of my clients, the truth is, it's not that they hate their job, they hate the environment that they're in, which makes them think they hate their job. It's not the job itself. People go to school, they go to college, they get student loans, they do whatever it takes because they're passionate about, working in whatever field that they want to work in, and then sometimes you end up in a toxic work environment and you forget that moment when you landed that first job. Maybe it was an entry level job, maybe it was an unpaid internship, but you were so excited because you got your foot in the door, and it's holding on and remembering that feeling, and not only thinking about it, but how did it feel? Where did you feel it in your body? How did that feel? Get back to that. You want to get back to that, and that will remind you about how passionate you were about the career path that you chose. That it may not necessarily be the career, but it may be the environment. And I do talk about in the book. I do talk about ways of, um, like, what is the best way? Do you go? Oh, I'm going to quit my job and get a job somewhere else? that may not be the best choice. There may be other options. I look at that as maybe a last resort option, only because, and I've seen it in especially in the entertainment world, is people, it's job hopping central. It goes from one company to another company to another company. They last 1 or 2 years and they're just hopping around, because something rubbed them wrong. Well, maybe the grass, you got to remember the grass may not be greener on the other side. Maybe what you should be doing is watering the grass where you are.
I like that. I like that. It's so funny because as you're saying that, it's just taking me back to various different things that I've done or that I've tried or different groups that I've worked with. And I think to it, and it's like, when I had some internships, I'm like, the feeling of getting that internship was amazing. But once I got in there, the job was still great, but the environment around it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And it's very easy to say, oh, I'm done. This is it. But it's also really great when you could figure out how do you take that situation and still get back to that place. And so as you're talking about that, I'm like, this just brings up memories. And I'm sure everyone listening is probably like, oh, I get it. I've been there. I've experienced that. And I've tried to go to the other side and the grass isn't greener. And so that is a really, really great concept to discuss and for us to remember. I had a mentor of mine one time and he said, sometimes we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. And I think that this works really great for kind of what you're talking about, because we got to be reminded of that feeling of joy, the feeling of excitement, the feeling of those first 3 weeks of a new job. And maybe we don't need to be taught more or do more things, but maybe we just need to get back to that place and find a way to work through it and to master our mindset and to, as you say in the book, regain our personal freedoms. And so I love what you're talking about here. Is there anything else that you want to add about the book or about your process before we move on to our second portion of the interview?
Um, and I don't know if this is part of the second part, but I can just briefly go through the chapters and what the lesson is for each chapter, just to give people an idea of some of the topics that I hit on.
Hell yeah. I mean, break it down. Like, look, this is a really cool thing because not only can people now learn more about your book, but they can also see some of these names and how you use creativity. So super quickly, take us through the name of each chapter and kind of the main message of what it's about. And then we can keep going through this.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so the first chapter is called The Eyes Have It. And that chapter talks about uh, perspective, passion, and purpose. The second chapter is called Grats and Brags Are Better Than Bacon. And that actually talks about how gratefulness, how being grateful plays a big part in your success, and how being proud of the things that you've done and the things that you're doing is very crucial in playing to your success. Chapter 3 is called Blinders Are for Horses. And basically, uh, that chapter talks about how being in the present moment and how being aware of your surroundings uh, will help you not miss opportunities. Chapter 4 is called Ain't Talking About Brands. And that's actually a chapter about communication skills. Chapter 5 is called Is That a Quadricycle? And I basically talk about this uh, tool called the cycle of outcomes, which is 4 parts to that, which will definitely help you be able to create a better mindset to move forward instead of creating barriers that stop you. Chapter 6 is called Everyone Can Be a Manager of Time, and that's about time management. Chapter 7 is called Help, I Need Somebody. And that's understanding that you can't be a jack of all trades, and it is okay to put a team together. That's what it's all about. It's putting a team together and asking help from people who maybe can do things better than you can. Um, Chapter 8 is called Double Bag It, and that talks about not allowing what other people think have a bearing on the decisions that you make for yourself. Chapter 9 is called Fight, Flight, or Freeze, and that really does deal with fear. Um, Chapter 10 is called I Believe What I Believe Me, and that's about your belief systems. Chapter 11 is called The Verdict Is In, and that's more of a fun chapter. I talk about some of the fun celebrity experiences that I've had. throughout my career. And it's also, the lesson there is about not having preconceived judgments about people without having the facts. Chapter 12 is called Be Patient. The Bad Ones Don't Last. And it does talk about how patience does play into the success of your career. Chapter 13 is That Cup of Joe is a No-Go, which is about emptying your stress cup. And the last chapter, I'm not going to sing it, but I know it'll come to your head. And I will always love me. And it's about self-love. So that's a quick breakdown of the chapters in the book.
No, there you have it, folks. And it's funny. I mean, if you're just listening to this and you're not seeing this video because we're doing it live, is every time Robert said a chapter, my facial expression changed. And it created an emotion in me to be like, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. And this is critical. If you've ever wanted to write a book or you've ever wanted to sell something, how do you create an emotion in the person that you're trying to reach? And you do that beautifully. And beyond that, what it tells me as I'm listening to this is it tells me that you know your shit. Because not only are you able to teach it, and so how does everybody get your book? Where do they go? How do we support you in your launch?
The book is available on Amazon. You can get the ebook version, Kindle version, and also the paperback. I am just wrapping up the audiobook version of it. As a matter of fact, right behind me is the audiobook, which is really exciting because, and I'm excited to be the narrator, to be the voice of the book. So I'm excited about that as well. And that's again just wrapping it up. That should be out very very shortly. So just really excited about that. And then again, that's all on Amazon worldwide. I do have our
Amazing,
website, by the
amazing.
way.
So check out the book on Amazon, Lights Action You by Robert A. Lane. And as we get ready to wrap up here, Robert, is there anything that you would want to say to someone who's been thinking about writing a book but just haven't pulled the trigger yet?
You know, if you have a story to tell, you need to tell it. You need to share that story. Um, and again, think of the three things that I talk about in my introduction of the book: mindset, implementation, and consistency. Those are the three things. You apply that to any of your goals. You apply that to writing a book. You can do it. You know, I never thought that I would actually put this book together in the time frame that the book was put together. Never would have thought that that was even possible. And then when I tell people about it, they can't even wrap their heads around it. But you know what? It is possible. It is 100% possible. You just got to, again, put yourself in that right mindset of I'm going to do this. I have a story to tell. I have something to share. You know, whether it's to deal with coaching, or maybe it's a personal story, you know, or maybe it's a fiction book. Whatever it is, you have something to say, and there are people out there who want to hear about it. So do it. You just got to do it.
What a way to wrap this episode up, this interview, Robert. I had an absolute blast here, and I think your advice is incredibly important, right? Mindset, implementation, and consistency. And I know for a fact that you practice each one of those things during your time of executing this book. And so I'm really proud of you. Again, congratulations on your book release. This is an unbelievable feat. You did this in about 6 months, from the idea to the official launch date. And I'm incredibly blessed to have seen you throughout this process. And now I'm excited for the rest of the world to get to experience your greatness. So for everybody, make sure to go get a copy of Robert's new book. Go check it out on Amazon. We'll link it down below. So just go ahead and click that button, buy his book, and make something happen. Robert, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you so much, Jake. It's been a huge pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. And for all of you that are listening, one more time, go get Robert's book. And if you really enjoyed this episode, connect with Robert, connect with me. Let us know that you enjoyed this episode. We want you to succeed. We want your story to be told. And it starts by saying yes to yourself. That's all I got for you today, folks. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.